Welcome back to 3SN, everybody. I'm Alex Laverson, and with me is James No Doubt Dotson and Greg the Mad Scientist Pichero. We recently went over our top quarterbacks and running backs for this upcoming fantasy football season, and today we're going to be talking about tight ends. Often the overlooked and I would say underappreciated position when it comes to fantasy football. Guys, how you doing?
I'm excellent out here, Alex. It's, actually this is a position that is probably the most important position if you draft it correctly.
Absolutely it is. There's a lot of disparity between the top tight ends versus the ones that would be near the end of the draft. So if you can play your cards right, the tight end might be the position that makes or breaks your league. So let's get into it because, I think it's quite obvious that with or without Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski got to be your number one tight end out there. Even the saint or the sinner, whatever he wants to be today. I know, Alex. I know you're going to go for the Gronk, right?
Oh, easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else am I going to say? He's Rob Gronkowski. With or without Tom Brady, he's the best tight end in the game. When I think of Rob Gronkowski, I still think of that 2011 freak of nature who caught 18 passing touchdowns. So, I expect kind of more in the same. I don't necessarily expect 18 touchdowns. I'll say maybe like 1,200 receiving yards, 13 total touchdowns. So, he puts up stats like a wide receiver. You know what I mean? So, especially, if you're in a league that you could play tight ends and wide receivers as a flex, I think, Gronkowski is definitely a high choice, even if you're not taking tight ends that early.
Well, and again, we mentioned this before in a previous podcast, but it's very possible that your league setup might give like extra points PPR-wise to a tight end or a running back versus a wide receiver. Like if you have a 1-point PPR for a wideout, it might be 1.5 points for a tight end, and that's just huge if you have a guy like Gronkowski who's going to catch close to 100 passes each year. And two other guys who are going to be our number 2 and 3 guys in Jimmy Graham and Greg Olsen. Obviously, those two, same thing. They're going to catch a lot of passes. Let's talk about Jimmy Graham because he's the big question mark. We know he's great. He's Jimmy Graham. He's going to do unbelievable things on the football field. But now he's in Seattle, Greg. What does that mean?
Yeah, and that's a good question. What does that mean? Because Seattle seems to be the big enigma right now as far as how they handle their players. I really believe that you're going to have a drop-off in production in fantasy points under Jimmy Graham. I don't see them utilizing him to the extent that Drew Brees utilized him down there in New Orleans. So with that stated, I don't have him ranked as highly as maybe Alex or you, Mr. Dotson. I have him ranked more as like a number 3 type guy with Greg Olsen as my number 2 tight end out there.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you, and I also have Greg Olsen at number 2. The only thing I'm going to, say kind of, to contradict both of us here is, again, it depends on what your league setup is because Olsen, he's going to be consistent. He's going to get you 80 catches, and he's going to guarantee get you 6 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. No more, no less. However, Jimmy Graham could get you 10, 11, 12, even more touchdowns. So if you're in a touchdown-heavy league, you're definitely going to favor Jimmy Graham a lot more.
Well,
Alex, what are your thoughts on those two?
Let me ask you guys something. Do they like to spread the ball down there in Seattle?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit? You guys must be watching different football. I think they spread the ball around just fine. I think Jimmy Graham is going to be just fine. I don't think it's going to affect him very much as, you guys are thinking. I know even last year people were disappointed with his production, but don't forget he was nursing a shoulder injury for most of the year. So
yeah, but Russell Wilson is not Drew Brees. Drew Brees was looking for Jimmy Graham as the jump ball option in the end zone. Russell Wilson, he's not so much that type of a quarterback.
Well, and do we know that for sure, though? Who did he have throwing to at tight end last year?
Zach Ertz.
Oh, boy. I don't
No, not Zach Ertz. Zach Miller.
Zach Miller.
Zach Miller. I know. Listen, you guys, I think, are putting too much value into who's, throwing him the ball. It's not like some scrub is completely throwing it to him. It's about time they have a pretty really good tight end like Jimmy Graham. You know
Well,
what I mean? And also, let's keep in mind who else stands out that much head and shoulders above Jimmy Graham. I think that's what we're also forgetting too.
Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
Eh.
And here's the only thing I'm going to say about bringing Jimmy Graham into this offense. If you remember, a couple years ago, the Seattle Seahawks brought a new player, a very dynamic playmaking type of pass catcher into their offense, and everybody expected them to absolutely flourish under this new system. And it took about 5 weeks to realize that, you know what? Pete Carroll's not changing the way that he plays the game. This guy isn't doing anything. Guess what? 4 or 5 weeks, he was gone. That guy's name was Percy Harvin, who was a pretty darn good player, if you ask me. So, I mean, do I see Jimmy Graham going to that extent? No. But do I expect him to just automatically become, a 20-touchdown type of player just because he's playing in this offense right now? I don't think so. So I'm going to take a consistency guy with Greg Olsen rather than take what really is a risk because we don't know what to expect with Jimmy Graham at this point.
No, I'm not saying that this Jimmy Graham pick is so much obviously better than a Greg Olsen pick. I'm just trying to say that, you still got to give the guy some love.
Oh, well, and it is. It's a 2A, 2B type thing in my mind. Is that how you're looking at it, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not at the bottom of the heap. I mean, he's definitely, he's my number 3 guy as far as I'm concerned. I put him ahead of Travis Kelce.
Yeah, now talk about Travis Kelce for me. I mean, he finished the year on fire, and he was really the backup tight end, splitting time last year with the Sano. Now with him out of there, he's in there full time. What's Kelce going to bring?
Oh, he's going to bring so much value to the table, especially with Alex Smith at quarterback. Alex Smith has developed a fantastic rapport. This is his escape valve. This is the guy that's going to put up some tremendous numbers. He's definitely a top 5 guy, no doubt about it, and that's why we're talking about him, because he did finish the year on fire. He's definitely somebody that you have to look at. He's definitely the threat out there, and he developed himself nicely last year. Right.
Now, rounding out our top 10, let's just list them down real quick. Jason Witten rounds out our top 5. Then you have Josh Hill in New Orleans coming in at number 6. Martellus Bennett, number 7. Owen Daniels now in Denver at number 8. Julius Thomas out of Denver at number 9. And Delanie Walker rounding it off at number 10. The big names to look at, obviously Jason Witten's going to do what Jason Witten always does. There's not much to say about him. He's a model of consistency. That's why we like him. Now, how do you react to a guy like Josh Hill being up here when last year as the backup tight end in New Orleans, he only caught 14 passes, Greg, but 5 of them were for touchdowns.
But see, this is the thing with Jimmy Graham out of New Orleans. He's in the right system. He's at the right place at the right time, but the production definitely drops off. He's no Travis Kelce. Could he become a Travis Kelce? Well, time will tell. He has scored. He's got the right quarterback. He's got the right system out there. Time will definitely tell. But if you take a look at the tight ends, there's only a small handful that you would consider to be elite, and you have a small handful that you would actually say are pretty decent. Josh Hill is a pretty decent tight end. Travis Kelce is borderline elite. So, with that stated, you have Josh Hill as sort of the top of the heap of the pretty decent guys, along with Delanie Walker. Not Delanie Walker, but with Owen Daniels and Jason Witten. And then, after Jason Witten, there's another drop-off to the okay type guys, such as the Julius Thomases and the Martellus Bennetts. So, I mean, the drop-offs are absolutely quite dramatic as far as what we're looking at production-wise. And unless somebody comes up out of the depths and just surprises and shocks the heck out of everybody out there, we're seeing a very, very tight field here as far as who are the players, the tight ends that are going to be actually contributory to any type of team, making things happen. So it's very, very important that you draft your tight ends. If you have the opportunity to get an elite tight end, I would actually look at getting somebody like that maybe in the second or third round, to be honest with you, because that way you're assured of some points and you're shoring up your receiving positions as well.
Yeah, the idea of tiering comes up real important. We talked about that before. I mean, Gronk is tier 1 for sure. Olsen and Graham are the tier 2 guys that are right behind him. Kelsey and Witten is what you call, I guess, a tier 2A type thing. But after that, huge drop-off. There's like probably 10 tight ends that I would take. Any of them I'd be willing to take. So I'm not going to go and make a big jump and try to get a Josh Hill or a Martellus Bennett really early when I can get a guy like a Delaney Walker all the way down to the indie guys like Fleener and Allen in a much later round and save my picks. Now, what I want to ask my friend Mr. DeLaverson, the Saint, is how saintly he's going to be. Julius Thomas obviously, has done great things for us, but now he's in Jacksonville. Do you take the old guy from Denver? Or do you take the new guy coming in, Owen Daniels, coming into Denver? Which route, if you had the choice between the two, which one would you go with?
Avoid the guys playing in Jacksonville. There's your answer.
You can't get much of a better answer than that, can you? And
I mean, it's so simple. I mean, he's in Jacksonville.
You don't trust Blake Bortles, do you?
No.
Now, I'm almost mad at my own rankings here because I have Owen Daniels 8, Julius Thomas 10. The more I think about it, the more I think that Owen Daniels might be absolutely a juggernaut in Denver. And the reason I say that, in the last 8 years, he's averaging over 750 yards per year. Pretty solid numbers for a tight end. Guess what? All 8 of those seasons were under Gary Kubiak, either as his head coach or as his offensive coordinator. This past year in Baltimore as the offensive coordinator. Who's now the head coach in Denver? Gary Kubiak. So, I don't know. There's a gut instinct in me that says that if you're going to take anybody out of that tier, I'm going to probably take the risk on an Owen Daniels first just because he has the biggest upside. But then again, everybody's probably thinking that because he's got Peyton Manning throwing him the ball.
And also you have to consider the underneath game that Peyton Manning likes to play, where he uses the tight end as the guy up in the middle underneath to make the yardage. So with that stated, you're going to see Owen Daniels basically breaking out on fire here, I think, quite a bit. Very much the same way as Dallas Clark did many years ago.
Well, we can only hope so. And looking through here, just rounding out some of the names that we talked about, Fleener and Allen, we said, Zach Ertz, Heath Miller, maybe a Vernon Davis or a Larry Donnell if you're in a deep 15-16 team league. Those are the bottom end tight ends that you'd be picking. Any one of those really stick out to either of you as a guy who I'm going to keep my eye on more than anybody else?
I keep my eye out on a Zach Ertz only because of the Chip Kelly system that's out there.
Well, we know you love that Chip Kelly system.
Oh, I love it. It's money. It's money.
Keep an eye on Larry Donnell, of course. 63 catches last year. Can't complain with that. Alex, what do you think of a system like what Indy has? We have two very good tight ends in Coby Fleener and Dwayne Allen. Do you stay away from both of them as a result?
I mean, I'd rather not have one of those guys be like a starting tight end for me, but tight ends are going fast. You have no choice, I guess. So, I guess I would put one of those two Indianapolis tight ends lower on my priority list. Right.
I mean, they're obviously going to be a better selection than, say, a Jay Samaro or even a Michael Rivera for sure. I mean, hey, they both are averaged and projected to catch over 50 balls, so you can't argue with that, and you definitely can't argue with Andrew Luck throwing you the football, can you?
With that stated, that's I think a pretty decent analysis of the tight ends and basically how thin the tight ends really are and how important it is to tier these guys and to basically know where to draft them in the system. And the other thing is, too, don't get caught up. Once you got your tight ends, and all you need are basically two decent tight ends, look at the value positions that are out there. Look at the running backs. Look at the wide receivers. Don't load up on no names because they will be no names.
don't forget to check everything out on our website, the customizable cheat sheet, so you can work out those scoring issues that you have, and maybe try out some different strategies, because, like you said, you don't want to get no names, but it's very possible to run a 2 tight end system in a lot of league setups. So keep that in mind as you're going through your mock drafts, and make sure you keep checking back for more fun analysis from the Church Bell Saints all the way to the Mad Scientist to the Value Man who just does math for fun in between. So, for Greg, the Mad Scientist Pichero, and of course, Saint Alex Galaverson, I'm James No Doubt Value Man Dotson. Have a good one. Thanks for tuning in.